Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us as we work our way towards this wonderful fall season, this month of Rocktober. Seen some really interesting and beautiful and welcome things from Mother Nature here in the past week. For one, the temps dropped, didn't they? Wow. I mean, it was downright cold there a few nights for sure. The leaves are absolutely beautiful in my part of the state. I'm surprised, actually, the number of leaves, the amount of leaves that we've lost. That's always a sad time for me when I see those beautiful leaves fall to the ground. The good part about it is for hunters, for deer hunters and for squirrel hunters and for upland bird hunters, is once the leaves drop, you can see better into the woods. You have much better field of view about what's going on around you, what might be coming in, what's ahead of you. So that's the plus side. But I always hate to see the leaves drop. I was very glad to see the rain this past week. Man, did we need rain. The pond behind the house, we've lived in this house now for 10 years, and I've never seen the pond that low. My dad always said, going back to my love of the old sayings, my dad always says, it won't freeze up solid till the ponds are full. And this year, I think we're seeing an example of that. The pond was so very low. We got a couple of real good rains. The pond level's coming up to close to where it should be. So I believe in those old sayings. They were passed down from generation to generation because there is at least a kernel of truth in them, and oftentimes it's just straight out truth. Looking at the pond behind the house, I have to say that my friends who are waterfowl hunters, who are goose hunters, you haven't been doing a very good job. Really, honestly. I mean, there's like hundreds of birds on that pond. Now, you might say, well, why don't you sneak out there and knock their numbers down? I would absolutely love to, but I live just inside the city limit. So I can't. Now, when these birds jump up and fly across the road, they're pretty much fair game. So, all right, my friends who are goose hunters, and you know where I live, set up on these birds and knock the numbers down, will you? I mean, hundreds and hundreds. What else is going on? I told you, well, I've been telling you for the last several weeks. I had a goal this deer season. Number one, first and foremost, my goal when it comes to deer hunting in Michigan is to try to rekindle a strong interest in doing it. I didn't say passion. I didn't say love. I used to be very passionate, borderline hardcore, and absolutely love it. Through a number of factors, I allowed my passion for deer hunting to basically go away. I mean, I almost didn't even hardly hunt for a few years, just wasn't interested in it. And some of it was, and again, this is all things that I could have just ignored, but I didn't. It first started to hit me when I came out against mandatory antler point restrictions because I don't think it's a good idea. I still don't think it's a good idea. Do they work? Of course they work. I would just rather see people decide to let them walk rather than have the government or a group of hunters mandate to another group of hunters what they can shoot. That was my problem with it, and I was vocal about it. These days, I was like, I don't care. I do what you want. I don't care. that and the social shaming online, if you shoot something, it's not big enough, or if it's real big, it was behind a fence, and it's like, I don't need this. But I let it get to me. I let external factors, I let other people impact my love for deer hunting. Shame on me for letting those people do that. But I realized that a few years ago and have been making a conscious effort to get back into deer hunting for two reasons. I want to continue the tradition that the Avery family has been doing for generations, and that is deer hunting. I also, more importantly, want to be able to share this deer hunting experience with my family. My son James is a hardcore deer hunter. I got grandkids who are pretty hardcore deer hunters. And so for us to be able to look at trail camera pictures and talk about it and share these experiences and hunt together, it means a lot. It means enough to me that I didn't want to let it go away because of outside influences. So that's why I've been working my way back into it. So I went into this deer season not with the goal of shooting a big buck. That's one of the things that drives me crazy about deer hunting is the TV hunting shows where they name their buck. They got a target buck. It has to be mature. You have to have sheds from previous years. You have to have it on trail cameras. You have to name it. You have to shoot it out of a food plot that you put in. All these restrictions that the formal deer hunting society has put on average Joe Blow deer hunters today. Anyway, my goal was not to shoot a buck. My goal was to shoot a big doe because I knew that there weren't any deer walking around our lease property that I wanted to shoot. I'm not a trophy hunter. I'm not a snob. But at this point, I was not interested in shooting a 1.5-year-old buck. If you are, and I mean this sincerely, God bless you. I wish you nothing but success, and I will celebrate your harvest to the highest level. But I'm not interested in a 1.5-year-old buck. So I wanted to shoot a big doe. So this was my third or fourth hunt of the season. I'm sitting in an old ground blind. I mean, this blind has been out there 50 years. That's just a guess. Or longer, I don't know. But there is so much history and tradition in this blind. I can't even imagine how many deer have been shot out of this blind. At one time, there was an old stove in there, and I could just see people sitting, multiple people, it's really big, sitting in this thing, playing cards, drinking coffee around a stove and deer hunting. And I love this spot. So I was hunting with my crossbow. Oh, there you go, Avery. Hunting with a crossbow again, taking the easy way out. Yep, that's exactly what I did. I took the easy way out. Yep, I did. Okay, my hunt. The deer had been moving right at dark. So I got out there about 4:30, 5 o'clock, got settled in, I don't know, screwing around, probably looking at my phone. Didn't expect to see deer movement till right at dark. But at 6 o'clock, well, like 6:15, I look up and across the food plot, I see a doe and a fawn coming into the plot. And they're not sneaking. You know how they usually are? They're timid. They're looking around like they got a purpose. And all I can think of is God was looking over me on this hunt. And I think he said, Avery, I'm gonna give you a reward. And he did. Doe and a fawn lead the pack, and then there's another doe and a fawn. So I got a fawn, doe. They're coming into the food plot. I had ranged it earlier. I knew where things were. I knew I did not want to take a shot beyond 30 yards. The first doe and the first fawn come into the food plot. They're feeding. They're wandering around. They're slowly moving my direction. I think, okay, this could happen. It's broad daylight. They're moving my direction. The one isn't obviously a big mature doe. I will shoot her in a heartbeat if I get a chance. And I did get a chance. She kept wandering toward me. Eventually, she got to 20 yards and started to wander off. She was going to walk out of my field of view, out of my shooting window. So I had to grunt her to get her to stop. She's like, what? What was that noise? The minute she stopped, she put her leg forward. She opened up the cavity behind her shoulder, and I put an arrow directly through the middle of her. I mean, it was really a good shot. Very, one of the very rewarding shots that you get in archery hunting. So I knew I got her, and I did. And she didn't go very far. And you talk about a really nice experience, and it just felt good. After not taking a deer in so many years, to be back in the Michigan woods, set a goal for shooting a big doe and be able to do it. And you know what capped the night off? I had texted my son, James, and my grandson, Trent, a picture of the doe laying there in the ground. And Trent says, "You want me to come out and help you?" I said, "No, buddy, I think I got it." He said, "I'll be there." He drove all the way out from town to help me load that doe into the back of the truck, help me gut her. It was just a very cool experience. So check that one off the list. So I got my Michigan bear this year. I got my big doe this year. We got a freezer full of meat. Now I might actually go out there and just wait and see if a nice buck walks by. Feels pretty good. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors. This guy is so impressive. His entire crew is top-notch. I can't say enough about him. Then Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. In our second hour, John Littlefield on how to become a charter captain. Evan Croley of Michigan-based Brenton Rifles, plus Justin Tomei from MUCC. And in our third hour, it's Lance Valentine of Walleye 101, plus Wild Game Chef Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This is called Outdoor Magazine Radio. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And my email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what's on your mind. Send me your pictures, too, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe, WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us in the Sioux, WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Versa Skins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set that is very warm, it is windproof, it is water resistant, and you just snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern in less than a minute. Michigan-based company, I love that. Family-owned, I love that. You can learn more on their website, versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. They're also on Amazon. You can go to Amazon and do a search for VersaSkins brand. If you are a saddle hunter, and I don't mean somebody who hunts from horseback, I mean somebody who hunts from a tree saddle in a tree, VersaSkins makes a jacket just for you. If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, which is very hard to get, VersaSkins makes those as well. Great people, great products. Check them out, versaskins.com. Speaking of great people, I had the pleasure last weekend of going to a party at Bass Pro Shops at the Great Lakes Crossing in, what would that be, Auburn Hills, close to there. And it was put on by the folks from Greenway Outdoors. Now, I first became aware of these guys a few years ago. And I've been so impressed. And I continue to be even more impressed every time I deal with these guys, every time I talk with them. They are a group of young men who have made it their goal and made it their passion, not just to produce a top-quality TV show, but with a message behind it, talking about conservation, talking about, encouraging people to get in the outdoors. At this party, this unveiling party, they took us down to the theater there in the mall. They rented one of the theaters, and they showed a preview of this upcoming season on the History Channel, and it is very cool. So I thought, you know what, this is a great time to get Kyle back on the radio show here and talk a little bit about what these guys are all about. Kyle Green, welcome. How you doing?
Thank you, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and whenever I think about you guys, I smile because I see young guys with a passion who are hardworking, and I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you coming to the event. It was a sold-out crowd with lots of great people, but I had mentioned while I was speaking up there too is, we have a good show, and I can say that because I got the world's best team that works really hard around the clock every single day. But also, we had people to look up to, and I always say that you and Ted Nugent were the two people that kind of showed me what it was to build a career not only in the outdoor industry, but to teach people about conservation. And I always say 60% of hunting and fishing licenses are sold to white males over the age of 55. And if we don't replace that demographic in the next 10 to 15 years, when that big drop-off happens of license sales, we will have nowhere to go. And the second that hunting and fishing becomes a liability, it goes away. And we've seen that in California. They didn't sell enough trapping licenses, so now it's illegal to trap there. They put in new, as soon as it becomes a cost to the government, they can say it's got to go. So if we can't sell enough hunting and fishing licenses and keep enough people involved in the outdoors and involved in conservation, then we have no way to go forward. And I said at the event how grateful I was that I got to grow up watching you and grow up watching Uncle Ted and learning from you and hearing you speak and hear how you speak and how you've dealt with antis and how you've dealt with different people. And that's helped mold me into who I am today so that I can carry that message forward into the mainstream.
Well, Kyle, that's nice of you to say. I appreciate that. But honestly, what you guys have accomplished is far beyond what I've done in 40 years. I mean, History Channel. I was on Sportsman for a while. I was on Outdoor Channel for a while. History Channel. Holy cow, that's the big dog.
Well, thank you for saying that. But like I said, it's for the times you were exactly where we are. You know what I mean? And now, trying to bring it to this new audience, I'm trying to thrust us out of the outdoor industry, and hopefully people will see that in this new season where they'll see that a lot of the show is about adventure and culture and food, as well as hunting and fishing, and then teach them about conservation as well. And the whole point of that platform is to bring new people in to have respect for the hunting and the fishing and the outdoors, at least plant that seed the same way that you did for me when I was a kid.
When I was a kid, when I was younger, maybe your age, I never dreamed that we as a hunting culture would be in jeopardy. I mean, I grew up on a farm on the west side of the state, surrounded by fields and farms and woodlots and critters and things that flew and deer and rabbits, and it was wonderful. And everybody around me did the same thing, and that's what we all talked about, and that's what we dreamed about, and that's what we planned for. That's what we did. I never dreamed there would be a time when our culture as a state would not embrace that wholeheartedly. And I often talk about this here on the radio show. In the UP and the Northern Lower, people think I'm crazy when I say that because the culture there still revolves around that. But unfortunately, the voting public, the numbers are in the southern part of the state, and they might not have the background that we do.
It's like when you talk about California, you have so many people in California that vote completely different than you would think because it's those high focus centers of the cities, the LAs, the San Franciscos, those sorts of things hold so many people. But at the same time, I completely understand what you're saying. When you look at Michigan and you look at all the game that we have here and how beautiful it is, and to think like 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, everyone was involved in hunting and fishing and their food, right? They all knew where their food came from. And I think over the last 20 to 30 years, as we've gotten further and further of knowing where our food comes from, meaning we're buying everything from the grocery store, everything comes in bags, it comes in dinosaur-shaped nuggets, it comes in these processed forms, and as the processed food industry has really taken off, we have seen such a disconnect from our food where people go, oh, I think hunting's wrong while they're sitting there eating a chicken nugget. You know what I mean? They don't understand that connection is still life. They don't know the process from field to table. And I think that's part of it is what we're trying to hit on. The one thing I will say, the one good thing we can take away from COVID was when COVID happened, it really made everyone go, wait, so there could be supply chain issues. And I actually talked about that in the TV show a little bit. It's there could be supply chain issues where I can't get food. Well, I need to learn how to get my own food. And then gardening became really popular again. Eating organic became popular again. And interest in hunting skyrocketed for a short window there. And now we just have to convert those people that we planted the seed with to be longtime lovers of the outdoors like you and I are.
Well, as guys like me, as we move on, or we just can't hunt anymore, whatever the reason is, you've talked about this a couple of times. When guys my generation, when we're gone, the numbers don't make sense anymore. We have to replace our numbers with younger people coming in. Tell me again why that is, Kyle, because I think that's critical.
Well, it's simply put, we cannot be a detriment to the government, and that's number one, because there's a couple parts to this. The problem number one is we cannot be a detriment to the government, meaning that if we don't sell enough license to cover the cost it takes to regulate the resource, i.e. would be California with trapping, then they'll make it illegal. They didn't sell enough licenses to offset the cost. They'll just ban it and get rid of it. Now you can't do that. Okay? So we will see that across the United States, one little right at a time, one little hunting thing at a time. As soon as, even if small game didn't become as popular, and kudos to the DNR, I believe that there was strategy to the base license to protect the small game license. That shift to a base license, I think they were seeing that ahead of time. So kudos to them in that, because how many people were going to buy small game licenses still? And, the answer is not that many, because people were getting out of small game first. I think deer hunting will be the last stand, but I don't want to last stand. I want to encourage more people to get in the outdoors. And part of that too, this is another thing. If I had to say my biggest compliment to you and anything that you've ever done was your generosity and kindness towards others in the industry. Because what really upsets me the most is when I see other hunters that have been doing it a long time discourage new people. You go into a lot of archery shops and gun shops and stuff like that, and I'll even get talked to like I'm an idiot because I look like I'm about 15 years old. and that stuff will happen. And I just think it's so important that the generation that is in charge right now of the outdoor industry, and that includes me because I'm part of it, I would say that we have to be so kind and so generous with information and so inviting. And that is something you've always done. And I hate to say it but everybody knows it. People are not that nice when it comes to hunting and fishing sometimes in the industry. And I hate that. And I just think that we need to be as kind and caring, compassionate, and helpful to others as possible. And I think that's the future. But again, back to your point, if we do not bring in the next generation of hunters and fishermen, then we will not have enough money to sustain the resources. Right now in North America, we have more whitetail deer than ever in recorded history. And that's because we've had the glory days of the last 40 years of selling incredible amounts of hunting and fishing licenses. We've had a ton of resources to pour into the resource. We've had so much money to spend on whitetail deer. And because of that, the population has boomed. We've harvested this year's surplus to make room for next year's fawns. We've done everything right. And that's why we have this booming population. But now the population's starting to get away from us a little bit. And there's a lot less interest in it. And as laws become increasingly more difficult for us to hunt, that is a red flag of what's coming. I don't like seeing the deer population skyrocket the way it is. I don't like seeing hunter participation go down. And at the end of the day, going back to the point of inspiring others, there is enough to go around for all of us. There really is, especially right now. We should take advantage of that and bring as many new people in as possible so that in 50 years, people like you and I can still have these conversations.
Hey, listen, 50 years, I'm not going to be here to have the conversation with you, but others, I know what you're saying. Kyle, I'm going to ask you a question here. If we don't get time to answer it completely, we'll pick it up in the next segment. You talked about the hunting industry isn't always kind. We tend to feed on ourselves. I'd take that a step further, and this is what really bothers me. The hunting and fishing community. All this infighting, you bait, you use a crossbow, you shoot a small buck, yada, yada, yada. Man, in my opinion, we are way past the point of getting involved in such ridiculous arguments.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And I think that's where my loyalty to you lies, is the fact that I've never once seen you do it, and I've only heard you speak against it. And for the last 10, 15 years, that has what's carried me and kept me interested in you, because I'm like, that's the key right there. That's the attitude you have to have. And it's true. I mean, and I also think at the ballot box, we have to keep each other in mind when it comes to these regulations and these town halls and these meetings and that sort of thing too, is just because you're a deer hunter and not a pheasant hunter doesn't mean you shouldn't vote to help the pheasant hunters and the raccoon hunters and so on. Exactly,
and that's how we lost our Michigan dove hunt. Hang tight, Kyle. We're talking with Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors, the website, thegreenwayoutdoors.com, thegreenwayoutdoors.com. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, I want to talk about this new season. Last time we talked to Kyle, he was going to Hawaii and talked about this wild bull hunt. Did he get a chance to do that? What did he do? And what's this new season about? Coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Premier Maritime Training. If you've ever wanted to get your captain's license, I think this is your best bet. Captain John Littlefield taught my captain's class, and if he can help me become a licensed charter captain, believe me, he can help you get your license as well. Check out the website, pmtcaptains.com, for more info. John has classes across the state, and I'm sure you can find one that fits your schedule. That's pmtcaptains.com. John is actually with us on this week's show at the top of the second hour, so stay tuned for that. Right now, though, we're talking with Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors, greenwayoutdoors.com. Kyle, let's talk about this new season coming up on History Channel. Now, you guys are a group of Michigan guys. You cut your teeth here in Michigan, your passion's here in Michigan, but you're not limited to Michigan, right? You guys are going everywhere.
Yeah, we're traveling all over the world, and we've got some – I can't even wait to show you what we're going to do next year now. But, we did the Hawaii episodes, which you actually got to see, and I was so bummed, Mike. We're going back in January, by the way, though, because I'm going to get myself one of those giant feral cows. We walked, we covered ground, we looked everywhere, and we just couldn't put it together. And we were limited to – it's going to sound like a long time, but we were limited to a 12-day trip. But the amount – we had 10 and a half days of it we're filming, just creating the content and creating the show that you saw. So – I was not able to harvest a feral cow. I was hearing stories of them from the people that were there. It sounds like it's way harder to find them than you think. So I'm setting aside a week to only look for those this upcoming February. So I'm gonna put it together, but I did not succeed. I was blessed enough to harvest a beautiful ram while we were there. They've got mouflon, they've got feral sheep that have escaped, and they kind of crossbreed and they create these hybrids. And they are everywhere. They are like pigs in Texas. And, there's kind of controversy behind, like most invasive animals. It's like if you asked everybody in Texas, if you could press a button and make all the pigs go away, there'd be a lot of hunters that wouldn't want to necessarily press that button, right? They don't want them all to go away. They just want the numbers to be smaller. And it's kind of like that with the feral sheep in Hawaii where, the plants that have evolved there on the Hawaiian Islands, they've never had to deal with heavy grazing, right? So they're very susceptible to it. So the feral sheep and the goats that have just exploded on the big island of Hawaii, dating back to the 1700s until now, have really decimated a lot of the plant life in Hawaii. So the crops that are there as well. So they have to be kept in check, and that makes the perfect kind of hunt for us because it turns out ram is actually very good. Feral sheep is actually very good. Not all parts of them, as you saw in the show, but a majority of the meat is very, very good.
Something else I saw that you guys did that was so impressive, and to me, to experience this in person would be an experience of a lifetime. It would be one of those things where you'll, as an old man, you'll remember it. And that was going down to the bottom of the ocean floor and having rays, what are they, manta rays or stingrays, swim over the top of you?
Yep. Yeah, man, it's so hard to decide. I hope that we went to YPO, which is the Valley of the Kings, which is the most beautiful place where the Polynesian people originally settled in Hawaii. And it's absolutely gorgeous, and the fruit grows there like candy on trees. It's unbelievable. But the greatest part of that trip was the manta rays, where we went out at night, 45 foot deep into the ocean, dropped onto the ocean floor, and you have to hand it to my team. I have the best team in the entire world. Their camera work while scuba diving. AJ got stung by a sea urchin and still got all that footage. Ryan absolutely killed it. And we tried to create the feeling that I got. And when you see these 17, 20-foot manta rays go inches from my head, going right over while they're eating zooplankton, right out of my flashlight. I got a flashlight pointing at my head, and it's going right over. It's pitch black, and you just see this figure come in from the deep. And it's the most beautiful, humbling experience of your life. You can sense their intelligence. The manta ray is considered the smartest fish because of how big their brain is. And you learn this in the show, but they actually put them in front of mirrors. And the manta rays behave in a way that they know they're looking at themselves, not another manta ray when they see a mirror. I mean, they're very intelligent creatures. And you could see, there was about 20 of them while we were there circling around, and you could see the different personalities. You could see, like, some of them seem nice, some of them seem rude. You know what I mean? Like, they just, you could sense the intelligence that was there. It was an incredible experience, and that is probably one of the coolest scenes. I was so excited to share that with people. I think we tied a Bible verse to it perfectly. That's a scene I'm really excited for people to see this upcoming season.
So my wife, Denise, is sitting next to me in the theater, and she turns to me and she said two things. She said, that Kyle is a very humble kid. Well, not kid, very humble guy. And she said, the guys behind the camera are world class. So your work is being noticed, Kyle. Keep it up.
That means the world to us. And please send my thank yous to her, because that's very kind.
Kyle, I will certainly do that. When does the new season kick off, by the way?
November 2nd on the History Channel. The first airing start at 9 a.m. and then 9:30 a.m. There'll be 2 episodes back-to-back each week. And then it'll be available on History On Demand. And then eventually it'll go to Roku and Tubi and all those other streaming platforms as well.
Kyle, you're an amazing guy. Your team is doing amazing work. I'm very proud of you guys. Keep it up, and we will stay in touch.
We're so grateful for you, Mike. I hope you have a blessed day.
You as well. Kyle Green of Greenway Outdoors, the website, thegreenwayoutdoors.com. Just do a search for Greenway Outdoors. You'll find them everywhere. Great content, great people, and they're Michigan guys, and I really like that. We'll take a break. When we come back, Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews will wrap up this opening hour of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on 2 stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination. If you are going to be doing some fall fishing on the bay, either for perch or walleye, Linwood Beach, a great place to head out on the water. Great boat launch, great facilities, great people. If it's time for you to put the boat to bed for the winter, Linwood Beach can do that as well. Professionally winterize your boat. They can shrink wrap it if you want. Just a year-round place. If we get ice this year, and the folks at Linwood Beach are praying for a good ice season, and they're optimistic, Linwood Beach, a great place to jump off on the ice of Saginaw Bay. The website, linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Turn our attention now to Michigan's premier outdoor publication, and I say that intentionally. Woods-n-Waternews, I think, is the premier outdoor publication in Michigan, and that's quite a statement because we have some very, very good outdoor material generated in this state. Tom Campbell, one of the reasons Woods-n-Waternews is so well respected. He's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine. Phone line, Tom, welcome back.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for the kind words. That's wonderful. We certainly appreciate it. And we're going to try to work hard to keep that reputation going for sure.
Well, you've been doing this a long time, and still today, I mean, people can't wait for that big full-color publication to come out every month.
You got it, Mike. Absolutely. And I hate to say it, but the fall time, there's just a little step up, and everybody's a little more excited because, as we know, fall in Michigan we got fantastic fishing, we got fantastic hunting, just a fantastic time to be outdoors and enjoying Michigan's outdoors. So it's a little extra special right now, and that November issue, as we speak, should be in the hands of the U.S. Post Office, being delivered to all our subscribers, and our distribution people are getting it out to all the great newsstand stops out there. So hopefully you can have it by this weekend.
November edition. Geez, can I guess what's the subject of the November edition?
Take a wild guess, but just take a chance with that cover.
Yeah.
We got a beautiful.
But I'm seeing whitetails, big whitetails, on the cover of Woods-n-Waternews. I'm not going to say year round, but almost year round.
You know, so it is getting that way, Mike, because I'm not sure what it is, but maybe people wait to get their deer scored or wait till everything's in line. And so whenever we get their story, their information, their big buck, we're gonna put it in the publication, and some of them deserve to be on the cover, and we're going to do that. So, yeah, and we've got a couple inside the issue. We didn't put any on the cover yet, but there are some fantastic trophy photos and stories throughout the pages of the November issue, and a lot of. I'm amazed at how many youth stories that we received that saying, knowing that this was the last time they could shoot a buck during the youth hunt, that they waited and they waited and they waited, and many of them got a nice buck. So it's great to hear and great to see too.
Speaking of that youth hunt, as we all know, it's scheduled for next year. Will be does only. It might get reversed, but that's the plan.
It might.
But you guys at Woods-n-Waternews, this is a very controversial subject. You don't jump into this discussion directly, though, right? You're very good at keeping out of the fray of such things.
We let our readers, our writers, let those people do the talking for us, and that's exactly what we have in the November issue as we speak. We have a father that wrote a great piece about his son hunt and his personal opinions on how silly he thinks the rule change was. So we let our readers do the talking for us, and our writers do the talking for us, and we always encourage people to send us, their thoughts, their views, their opinions, and we try to run them. Absolutely, Mike.
And that's a good point and an interesting point, Tom. I'm glad you brought it up. You don't have to be a so-called professional outdoor writer to end up in Woods and Water. You routinely publish stories from your readers.
Absolutely, yeah. You're so right, Mike. I think we got 4 or 5 in the November issue as we speak too. Yeah, well, that's what we're supposed to. That's what we're all about. We wanted about the readers. We wanted about the youth stories, and so. That just helps us be successful. Everybody loves to hear down-to-earth stories. Here's what really happened. It's not enhanced. It's not prettified.
Well, but it's not enhanced. But a lot of people are not professional writers. Will you guys go through and clean up the grammar and such, or you run it as is?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. In most cases, we sure will. If it's a young hunter, maybe we will leave that topic to make it feel real. But yeah, absolutely. We'll do our best to clean up anything you have, and we've got some dandy stories. Like I said, we always hear them, so it's great. Real
quick before I let you go, if somebody wanted to get a story into Woods and Water, how would they submit that? What's the process?
I think the best thing is, of course, they can go to our website, but probably the easiest for everybody today is just email it. And our email address is WNW, which stands for Woods and Waternews, Woods and Waters, WNW at page1-inc.com.
Perfect.
And it'll come directly to us.
All right, Tom, keep up the good work. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Tom Campbell of Woods and Waternews, the website woods-n-waternews.com, or as Tom says, just Google Woods and Waternews. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in our second hour, Captain John Littlefield, Evan Croley of Brenton Firearms, Justin Tomei of MUCC, and more coming up in hour 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And as always, I think the best way to listen to this show, if you can, is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM radio station. Because if nothing else, then if no other reason is the radio shows get the content of the program before the podcast version is even uploaded. I want to support our local radio stations. I could not do this strictly as a podcast. I need those radio stations. I appreciate those radio stations. And I welcome the access to their airtime each and every weekend. So if you can, please support those stations and listen to the show on your local radio station. If you can't, if your local radio station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, there is a podcast version of the show available. I know, everybody's got a podcast, right? And really, honestly, I feel like everybody does have a podcast. But podcasting is a great way to reach people. So, if you want to do a podcast, God bless you. It's easy, it's inexpensive, and you can get your message out. You can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show several places, including my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I put it on my Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, now called X, LinkedIn, Apple, yada, yada, TuneIn, Stitcher, yada, yada. Everywhere you can hear a podcast, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show, including YouTube. Yep, we put it on YouTube as well. I do podcasts each month specifically for some of my advertising partners, including Offshore Tackle, Primal Outdoors, and AnglerQuest. AnglerQuest, QUEST, the new AnglerQuest. When we're done here in the studio, we will record this month's AnglerQuest podcast with Mr. AnglerQuest, Brad Dupuis. I recently went to a dealer meeting where Brad unveiled 5 new models of AnglerQuest. We'll talk about that and more. Speaking of AnglerQuest and being on the water, for the last several years, I have run an AnglerQuest on Saginaw Bay. And I do a lot of charity charters. I don't run paid charters, but I do charity charters. I found out a few years ago that to do that, even though no money was directly exchanging hands, to me, compensation was still being given to the charity. I found out, hey, I can't do that without being a licensed charter captain. I thought, okay, how am I going to do that? Okay, John Littlefield. I know John. Yeah, okay. So I went to classes that John Littlefield taught, Captain John Littlefield. And I always say I credit John Littlefield for getting my captain's license. And I think I was like 60 when I got it, or 61 or something. So honestly, it was not an easy process, but John made it very easy. John now has his own company, Premier Maritime Training. You've heard me talk about him every week. And we've got him on the Outdoor Magazine show right now to talk a little bit more about this process. Maybe this is the time for you to get your captain's license, and this is a great time of year to do it. Captain Littlefield, welcome back to the show. How you doing, John?
I'm doing good, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. How is the new company going?
It's going good. This is I guess we're coming to the end of our first year in business. Our first class was in January of this year. So, we had some good success, but we're looking to make some changes and make it even better for next year.
What are you looking at, John, if you don't mind me asking?
As far as changes go?
Yeah.
Well, so at the current time, we're offering the class we teach is the 6-pack. It's called an OUPV, which allows people to operate vessels basically carrying 6 or fewer passengers, which is really what most charter captains and things of that nature, most people take our class, that's all they would need. But for those that want to carry more than 6 passengers, they would need to upgrade that course to the master license, and we are waiting for our Coast Guard approval to start offering an upgrade so that people that already have the 6-pack can upgrade that to their master. So that's
nice.
Hopefully coming for next year.
Oh, good. That's exciting. My license is actually a master, is a 25-ton master, if I remember correctly. I'll never need that, but it was nice to have that option, John, that you gave me in the first place.
Yep. So that master license, like you said, it's going to be issued in terms of either a 25-ton or a 50-ton up to a maximum of 100 tons. And so instead of being limited to 6 or fewer passengers, you're limited by the tonnage of the vessel and then however many people it's approved to carry.
So who comes to you looking to get their license? Who are these people?
Well, these people come from a lot of walks of the maritime industry. So I think the common one that people think of is charter captains, for fishing. But you also get a lot of people that are looking to, like, Towboat US or Sea Tow is popular down south, or you get diving charters or sightseeing tours or salvage operations, or, there's a million things. And really, whenever there's an exchange of money, that's what dictates that you need this license.
All right, so if you're
and then there's also people, sorry.
No, go ahead, John. Go ahead, John.
A huge sector of what we also get is just people who see it as more like a bucket list item. So they've spent their whole life on the water. They love being on the water, and this is just another feather in their cap kind of a thing. They've always wanted it. So we get people in every single class that are doing it for that reason.
I get that. I got to be honest. When I got my captain's license, I felt pretty good. I mean, it was quite an accomplishment, and I thank you for that. And I encourage people, if this is something you want to do, John, I always say your company, pmtcaptains.com, is the best option because you got so many different options out there, so many different classes, so many different availabilities.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so this past year we offered classes in, Chesterfield, Southeast Michigan is kind of our home base, so we do everything, once a month there. But we also do Bay City and Ludington, and we're expanding to a couple of new places for the coming year. We've got stuff on the calendar for Grand Rapids and Traverse City, as well as usual, one or two in Ludington, Southeast Michigan, Bay City. So we're all over the place, including Florida. So if there's any snowbirds that spend their winters in Southwest Florida, we do stuff down there year-round as well.
Yeah, you were pretty smart to do that.
Well, it sounds smart, but after the recent hurricane, actually hurricanes, two of them, we got beat up pretty bad.
What's the process? How long is this class? What's it like? Is it every day? What? Remind me.
Yep, it's a 9-day class, and every day is a full day. It starts at 9 a.m. and it runs until about 4:30 in the afternoon. But the class itself, so for the class, we teach you the material, we prepare you for the test, and then on the last day, we administer the Coast Guard exams. So you'll leave the class having already taken the Coast Guard exams, so that, prevents you from having to go to Toledo to take your test. So you can do it right with us. But then there's also Coast Guard requirements like a physical and a drug test and a background check and a handful of other things that you'll have to do. But we walk you through the process, we provide you the paperwork, and we give you assistance filling out that paperwork to try and make it as easy as we can.
See, you just mentioned two things right there that really set you guys apart, in my opinion. The fact that you can administer the test, that's huge, and the fact that you help us walk through all this paperwork, because I was actually quite surprised. And I guess, it should be an arduous process, but it's fairly complicated. And for the average person to walk through this without guidance is a little bit overwhelming. So I appreciate the way you guys handle this.
Yeah, I remember when I got my license for the first time, I was kind of in the same boat where I knew I needed the license, but I didn't know what I had to do to get it. So I definitely, understand the importance of providing that service because it is a daunting process if you don't know what you're getting into.
And then how long is the license good for?
Well, it's good for 5 years, but the class is kind of a one-time thing. As long as you keep it renewed every 5 years, you never have to take the course or the exams again. So, after 5 years, students call me all the time and to help them with their renewal, and it's just mostly a matter of paperwork.
Well, that's where I'm at. I'm going to be reaching out to you soon just to get this thing renewed because I certainly don't want to let it lapse.
Yeah, if you let it lapse, then you have to start from scratch and do the class and that whole process. So make sure you get it renewed.
I will do that. So, John, how do we get in touch with you then? Go to the website, pmtcaptains.com, and reach out that way?
Yep. I do take Facebook messages, emails, phone calls. Like you mentioned, our website is pmtcaptains.com. We have a Facebook page, Premier Maritime Training. And then our phone number is 248-560-7138. And I return all those messages that I get through there, too.
Do you get a chance to fish at all anymore?
Well, yes, I do fish quite a bit. This time of year, I pretty much spend my free time in the woods. Kind of bow season is my passion this time of year.
Oh, I can understand that. All right, John, listen, always a pleasure. I tell people every time I talk about this, if you're remotely interested, if you think this is the time, if you want to know more about it, your personality is such that you are such a good teacher and you make complex concepts so much easier to understand. That's why I think you're the perfect guy for this.
All right. Well, thank you for that compliment, Mike. It's a lot of stuff, but we can definitely make it easy to understand and comprehend for sure.
Captain John Littlefield of PMT Captains. PMT Captains it stands for Premier Maritime Training. The website pmtcaptains.com. If you've ever thought you might want to be a charter captain, I cannot recommend John heartily enough. He does a great job. The website pmtcaptains.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Evan Croley from Brenton, USA, the Michigan-based AR-style firearm manufacturer, and then Justin Tomei of MUCC will help us wrap up the hour, the second hour of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan. Of course, the content also available as a podcast. Those broadcast stations include Big Country Gold in Sheboygan, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. Sports Extra, 1330 WTRX in Flint. Let's see if we can't go north of the bridge one more time. Yes, we can. Let's go to Escanaba. WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by, okay, get ready, brought to you by the company that makes this sound. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. I just used this knife here last week to field dress a big doe. I also used it to field dress a Michigan bear. The edge is just still sharp as can be. I haven't touched it up at all. I always say a good knife is one of the most valuable tools someone who loves the outdoor can have. I recommend Rapid River knives. They're Michigan-based, family-owned, and they make great products guaranteed for life. Rapid River is now involved in a new partnership with another Michigan outdoor icon, Stormy Cromer. If you go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com, you can sign up for one of those new limited edition Rapid River Stormy Cromer knives. Also, if you go to the showroom on US 2, just east of Rapid River, or if you go to that website and you use the promo code Avery10, that's Avery10, you'll save 10% off on a Rapid River knife. How cool is that? rapidriverknifeworks.com. You know by now, if you've heard me at all, that I love to work with Michigan-based, family-owned companies. I think that those of us here in our state, we have a common mindset. We come from a common background, a common perspective. And I just really like working with Michigan-based, family-owned companies. In fact, so much so that on my recent bear hunting trip to the UP, I've taken a lot of bears, but I've never taken one with a gun before. I wanted to take my first Michigan bear with a Michigan-made gun. So I took my Brenton 350 Legend up there, and man, did it do the job. And now I'm excited about using that same Brenton for the upcoming whitetail firearm season as well. Evan Croley is the marketing director for Brenton, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Evan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Mike. Good, buddy. How are you today?
I'm doing real good. I love family-owned, Michigan-based Brenton. I love the gun that I have, that 350 Legend, and I'm excited to hear about some of the things you guys have in the works there. You're not letting any moss grow underneath your feet, are you?
Oh, no. Always on the move, Mike. You know how it goes. Innovate or die.
So what's going on at Brenton? Tell me about Brenton, okay? Why should somebody, we've got the upcoming firearm season, maybe put down their shotgun, maybe put down their lever action and pick up one of these AR-style Brenton guns?
Yeah. Great question, Mike. I think you hit the nail on the head there. For your radio listeners and the people that tune in with you, being a Michigan-based company, we put all of our efforts into, supporting the local Michigan area. We use a lot and source a lot of stuff from the Michigan area as far as, machining help, different things like that. So that's a big plus and a big driver for us. Speaking to the quality of the product, we set out to build a platform that, is sometimes overlooked when you just kind of put the AR-15 in the box that a lot of people tend to do. We wanted to create an heirloom quality firearm. And we feel as though we did that with what we've done as far as the quality control, the tolerances, the accuracy guarantees, the caliber offerings. It's the firearm that you use and then you pass down to the next generation.
We talk about accuracy. This gun that I have is far more accurate than I will ever need. I put a scope on there that is dialed into the Brenton 350 Legend, so my top crosshair is 100. My second crosshair is 150. My third is 200. That's all I need, Evan. But if I needed to go farther, this gun could do it.
Oh, absolutely. And we set out to do that. It's very purposeful. Again, it's kind of overlooked, with the AR platform. People don't think about them as accuracy machines because of just, inherently how they're designed with a little bit looser tolerances, made to work with every component that's available on the market. We set out to design something that is going to be accurate out of the box. There are a few other companies out there that are mainstays for, making an accurate platform, but their typical branding, marketing, direction of their company is going more towards that tactical, self-defense, home defense, whereas we wanted to set out and do it with the hunting platform because it was a gap in the market. Not many people were focusing on the caliber offerings that we do. I mean, Mike, we're up to 13 different calibers that we're offering in our platform right now, and each one of them comes with that 7MO accuracy guarantee across everything that we're doing. So that way, when you need to take that first shot, it's gonna make impact, and if you need a second follow-up shot, that reliability of feeding accuracy, enhanced feeding ability, that's there as well.
It is the mindset of some people with the AR style platform. Does that hurt you when you want to make it a hunting gun? Or do people say, no, this is not what this is about? I know it is because I'm using it. I've proven it to myself. Mm-hmm. But is that is that stigma? Does that work against you?
It's interesting because it is very easy to put, just an AR is an AR and is another AR. Put them in a box.
Yep.
You can take a 5.56 AR-15, from any other manufacturers, and you could go out and hunt with it, just like you could take a 22 long rifle revolver if you were so inclined and use it for home defense. A firearm is a firearm based on the application. Where we get into the weeds a little bit and where I think it matters for the average hunter is the attention to detail to the small things that are commonly overlooked that, do add to the costing. They add to the R&D and the development, the engineering that goes into a rifle. Our rifles are kind of in that upper echelon of pricing, and, it's not lost on us. But to the consumer, what they need to know is that price point is dictated because of everything that's gone in on the back end. From the ammunition that we do in testing, we test full factory hunting loads on everything that we do. So, Mike, your 350 Legend that went out the door was tested with, the Winchesters, the Federals, the Hornadies, the different grain weights that are available to make sure that when a consumer gets their rifle, they're going to be doing it. And that ammo is not cheap. So we pay attention to the things that are commonly overlooked. And have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into making sure that, again, we make an heirloom quality rifle. That's not a statement that we take lightly. Firsthand with your rifle and anybody else that goes and picks one up at a local Michigan dealer, we'll see quickly when they hold a rifle, they're holding something that's different. It has a different fit and feel. And then when they go out, and purchase a rifle and shoot it, and they harvest that first animal, they start making memories with that rifle. Everything starts to make sense, and that is something that we are, in a league of our own trying to cultivate in this market. Not many companies are focused on the AR as a hunting tool. And a lot of it is just because of everything that goes in on the back end that we've taken care of. So I think we're first in class and first in market to offer what we are offering as far as caliber options and the accuracy guarantees and everything. So
what is your most popular caliber?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I think it's ever evolving. The seasonality of hunting. During the deer season, obviously our 350 Legend, our 450 Bushmaster. This year we have launched 400 Legend, so that'll be interesting to see how we do with that one. And then as we get more into the predator season, last year it was kind of dominated by 6mm arc. I'd say overall that was our number one seller. That is probably our fastest growing customer segment right now is the predator hunting market. And we've actually broken in down south into Texas and Georgia and Louisiana with the hog market. So 300 hammers. So it's based on regionality and seasonality of what people are going after. But with the interchangeability of buying a rifle and then buying a secondary upper, people in Michigan consumers can buy our rifle in 350 Legend, 450 Bushmaster, take their whitetail, then they can purchase a secondary upper receiver and buy a 6mm arc, or again, we've launched new calibers. 22 arc is a new one that we've launched, so they can buy a 22 arc and go after predators. So it's always evolving, and we're constantly moving the goalposts.
That's an interesting point. Could you, in theory, buy one of your guns and then swap it out, or not swap it out, but put on a different upper for a different caliber? And so instead of having 8 guns in your safe, you'd have one gun with different uppers? Is that feasible?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, it's very common when you're looking to go to a caliber outside of 5.56. I mean, before coming on with Brenton, I was, more than familiar with the AR platform. I have about 7-8 other ARs that are non-Faxon branded that are all in 5.56. And if I was, looking for, a platform to go out and take my whitetail, I don't want to lose any of your audience members, but I live in a state a little bit further south in Michigan.
As long as it's not Ohio. As long as it's not Ohio.
We'll leave that unsaid. We'll let the audience infer where I'm from. But we do get 9 days for our gun season here. We get a week and then an extended weekend. So, me looking at it, if I had, no familiarity or working with Brenton, and I wanted to go out with a 350, I could, absolutely take one of my 5.56 lower receivers, pop the upper off of that, and then buy a Brenton upper receiver in 350 Legend, mount it up, scope it up, sight it in, and go out and harvest my animal, and then come right back home and swap it back out for my 5.56 upper and use it for home defense.
Well, Evan, I got to tell you, there was something very satisfying about taking that first Michigan bear with a Michigan-made gun, and I'm really excited about getting that same gun in that 350 Legend out into the whitetail woods here now in a few weeks. I would encourage people not to overlook the AR platform as a hunting platform, and if you're going to do that, why not take a look at a Michigan-based family-owned company? In this case, Brenton Firearms, BrentonUSA.com, BrentonUSA.com. Evan, appreciate your time. You and I will be in touch.
I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you.
All right, Evan Croley of Brenton, BrentonUSA.com. I had told a story earlier as I was getting ready for my bear hunt. The folks at Brenton had recommended federal ammo, so that's what I had. And once I put a suppressor on the end of that Brenton, it changed the pressures, and I couldn't get the gun to cycle correctly. Now, if we would have played with the gas block adjustment, that would have solved it. But I did have several boxes of Winchester 180 grain ammo right there in my gun case. Swap that out. That shot beautifully. So I don't want to mess with anything else, right? I've thought of the idea of going to a subsonic ammo to make it even quieter with the suppressor, but the impact it had on that bear was pretty good. And I think I want to use the same thing for the upcoming whitetail season. BrentonUSA.com, the website, BrentonUSA.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Justin Tomei of MUCC right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots. Now, I realize you're probably not putting in Killer Food Plots right now, but I bet there's a good chance you might be hunting over Killer Food Plots. And don't forget, as we get closer to the firearm season, to the whitetail rut season coming up, Killer Food Plots also makes a line of scents, too, attractant scents. So check those out on the website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. Michigan-based, family-owned. Again, how many times have I mentioned that in this week's show alone? Michigan-based, family-owned. I like working with Michigan-based, family-owned companies, and I would encourage you to check them out. And if they have what you need, I would encourage you to do business with them. Any company, right? I'm not saying go out and do business with somebody just because they're family-owned and Michigan-based. But if they have the products or the services that'll do you good, I encourage you to check them out. I want to turn our attention now to MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs. I was actually on a recent MUCC podcast, and it was a lot of fun. And in that podcast, we discussed a lot of different topics. One of the things we talked about was it gave me a chance to, outside of here on the radio show, to talk about why I support MUCC and why I support the Michigan Wildlife Council. I think both groups are doing a lot of good, especially MUCC. I don't have the wherewithal to keep in touch with and keep track of everything that's going on in Lansing. And I really don't want to know. But I do want to know when things that affect me as a hunter and angler come along. That's when I turn to MUCC. Justin Tomei is the guy. I mean, look, you want to see a guy get excited. You start talking about politics and lobbying and getting people to do the right thing for conservation. Justin's your man. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Justin, the conversation we had the night before the golf outing in West Branch last summer really clued me into just how excited you are about this process.
Yeah, I mean, I really am. I not even in the conservation space. I'm personally involved in politics. I actually was 5 minutes ago looking for polling from Colorado about their anti-hunting ballot initiative out there. So it's something I do for fun. I'm weird.
I can't see doing that for fun, but I can see bear hunting for fun. You sent me a picture, and I had seen a picture of your bear last fall, but I've forgotten what a beautiful blaze. You've got the mount back now. It looks great.
Yeah. I picked it up after the NRC meeting Thursday from Daggett, Michigan, and the bear's everything I remember it to be. The blaze might be bigger than I remember, but it was a heck of a bear, and I'm lucky to have met the people that took me out to get it. But it's home now. It's taking up my whole living room.
One of the things I love about taxidermy and mounts, and I've got a deer and bear all over my house, is the way it helps you remember the hunt. We're not celebrating a dead animal on the wall. We are making a remembrance of a wonderful experience.
Yeah. The mounts represents the memories, the friendships you made. I mean, I met a lot of new people that I didn't know prior to my hunt. On my hunt, it represents the food. I mean, I had, I think, one of my last packs of bear burger last night and some chili. So it represents the whole thing, why we do it, and yeah, it's. I don't know. It's the best. My house is the same. It's full of deer and turkey and now a bear.
and bear burger in chili is outstanding, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really good. It was a new chili recipe we tried yesterday for my picky 5-year-old. And
how'd it go?
We liked it. Yeah, it went okay.
So listen, what's going on in Lansing right now? I have a sense that things are kind of shut down until after the election. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's pretty slow. The Senate's doing some work this week, but nothing that I'm concerning myself with at this time. Basically, they're going to come back after the election, set up for a week or two before Thanksgiving and rifle season, and then they're probably gone till the first week of December, and then that whole month of December has the potential to just be, bonkers, midnight sessions. It could go crazy.
Anything in particular, or just in general, you get a lame duck session, you don't know what they're going to do?
Lame ducks, generally, you don't know what they're going to do because people aren't paying attention as you come out of Thanksgiving and are going into Christmas. And so it can be unpredictable. And also the results of the November election, in my opinion, are going to influence what happens a lot because, if the Democrats lose power, they have things that they want to get done before they do lose power by the end of December. So if they hold power, then maybe the urgency is not there and it goes a little slower.
Does the national election have an impact on us here in Michigan as far as hunting and conservation, or are you talking strictly elections at the state level?
Just the state level stuff. It's really the state house is up for grabs here in Michigan right now. I mean, the national elections influence it so far as, the people at the top of the ticket can really affect the results at the bottom of the ticket. But really, it's just the state house control of that is up for grabs this fall.
Gotcha, Justin. We will be anxious to talk to you as that evolves. Congrats on getting that bear mount back. Keep up the good work, and we'll talk again soon.
Appreciate it, Mike. Have a good one.
You as well. Justin Tomei of MUCC, MUCC.org. That's MUCC.org. If you want to see the podcast I did with the guys at MUCC, you can see it many places, including my Facebook page and my Instagram feed, and also at that website, MUCC.org. When we come back, well, kind of an Ask Avery segment. I'll explain when we come back right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Holland on WHTC. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. You probably know this by now, but for folks who are new to the show, this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. You can send me a question that you want me to answer directly, or if I don't have the knowledge, the insight, the wisdom, or the experience, or the credentials to answer that question, I will pass it along to somebody who can answer the question. The best way to get these questions to me is to send me an email. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Please don't send them to me in a social media message. I routinely go through my social media messages, but apparently not enough, because as much as I'm online and on social media, I go back and I find things that I've missed. So if you want to get it to me and you want me to see it, which is, I want to see your questions, send me the email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I got an email, and unfortunately I don't have the exact email in front of me, so I don't know who to credit. But there are a couple of questions from a listener, and thank you. Are we allowed to have a weapon strapped to an e-bike to go hunting with in Michigan, like you can on a four-wheeler? Also, is having the weapon on the tailgate illegal? So 2 different questions. An e-bike would be one of these electric bikes that we see so popular that the TV shows are pushing these days, right? The only way to get quietly into your hunting spot is to use an e-bike. Well, I can't get an answer to this. I'm still working on it. I have not been able to get an answer on this. But the second part of the question also is having the weapon on the tailgate of your truck illegal. As far as the weapon on the tailgate, the law reads that in or upon a motor vehicle. So having it on the tailgate would not be legal if it's loaded or uncased. If it's loaded or uncased, you cannot put it on the tailgate. Now, you can take this one step further, because I've actually seen this in person. If you lean a loaded gun against your tailgate or against the side of your truck or against the tire, that is also technically illegal. Now, I think that probably comes down to a safety concern. So, the law is what the law is, right? We probably are not going to get laws like that changed. I think some of them go a little bit overboard. Yeah, of course, I have a concern for safety. Obviously, safety number one. Safety, safety, safety. When you're dealing with guns, firearms, safety has to be the number one concern. So anything safety related, I'm behind it 100%. But whether or not you agree with the law doesn't really matter, right? Because it is the law. You might say, well, I think I should be able to put my loaded gun on the tailgate. Doesn't matter what you think. You can't do it. So just be aware. Something else that came up here this past week. As I shot my doe, I got my license, my senior doe tag out of my pocket. I took my Rapid River knife out and I notched the tag. I notched the tag, all the appropriate information, so it was nice and legal. I was not going to move that deer out of the woods until the tag was notched and the animal was tagged. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take that chance. So the way I tagged the animal was I pulled the sticky backside of the license off after notching the tag. I wrapped the tag around the lower leg of the lower part of the doe's rear leg or front leg. I don't remember which. And I wrapped it around there, and it stuck. And I was able to wrap the tag on itself, so it wasn't just all on hair, so it stuck. I was going to put a zip tie around that tag. But it was stuck there so securely that I didn't. Because I knew that, this is in the back of my truck in a jet sled. I'm taking it right to the processor in the morning. It was not going to be out in the wind. I wasn't concerned about the tag blowing off. It was notched. It was affixed to the animal. I had people on Facebook say, oh, no, you did it wrong. You did it wrong. You have to tie a string around that, or you have to put a zip tie on it. So I did some research. A person who kills a deer shall immediately validate the kill tag by notching out the appropriate information on the tag and attach the kill tag to the antler, lower jaw, or gambrel of the deer in a secure and permanent manner. In my opinion, that was a secure and permanent manner. But I had people say, oh, no, because there's no zip tie in there. You didn't do it right. There are a lot of ways to be real picky in anything, right? I mean, I would never intentionally violate any game law. But I do say if you spend enough time in the outdoors, not just me, but you, anybody, right? It's like driving. If you spend enough time behind the wheel, you're going to forget to use a blinker or you're not going to come to a complete stop. If you spend enough time in the outdoors, you will probably unintentionally eventually break a minor game law. It's not like you go out there with the intent of violating deer. That tag was notched, and in my opinion, it was permanently affixed to the animal. Hour 3 coming up of Outdoor Magazine with Lance Valentine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us as we work our way through the month of Rocktober. October, a great time of year. The temperatures are dropping. The leaves are beautiful. An absolutely wonderful time of year. A lot of you are deer hunting, waterfowl hunting, upland bird hunting, small game hunting. There's some great fishing going on right now too, though, isn't there? I have not been out for a long time. In fact, I'm in the process of, by the time you hear this show, next week, I'm going to pull the Angler Quest and take her up to Linwood Beach Marina. Because if I want to get out this fall, and there is some great fall fishing, I have invitations from so many of my friends, so I'm not worried about it. I can get out. One of the guys who has invited me out every year to take advantage of the fall fishing is Lance Valentine. I call him Sir Lancelot. Sir Lancelot of Walleye 101, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Lance, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Mikey. How are you, my friend?
Good, but I almost introduced you as Lance Valentine of Teaching Fishing because you had ingrained that in my mind. What happened?
Well, the quick version is this, right? When we started Walleye 101, one of the things we did is we put my name on the logo, and I wasn't too keen on that, but a buddy of mine who's in the ad business said, look, people are going to associate Walleye 101 with you. They're not going to know who Walleye 101 is, but they're going to know you. You need to put your name on the logo. And a few years back, we thought about expanding what we do and getting into other species and bringing some other people on. So we started Teaching Fishing to kind of be an umbrella. Walleye 101 was supposed to be part of this bigger Teaching Fishing umbrella that would encompass different species, different fishing educators, different things, and it just never really panned out. We were never really able to kind of get the stable of speakers that we wanted and get the people lined up. So over the years, people don't associate Teaching Fishing with me as much as they do me and Walleye 101. So last year I got thinking, what can we do to really start to recreate some excitement about what we're doing, and we're going to bring back the Walleye 101 name. And I think people understand that when they see something from Walleye 101, they know it has my stamp on it. They know that I approve of it. We're constantly changing. So what we say is what we think is right now, but we're always flexible in learning new things. But I think going back to our original, the original product, which is Walleye 101, putting my name on it, people associate that with me. And I think it's time to kind of get away from trying to do something bigger, which we had plans for with Teaching Fishing, and just come back to our roots, do what we do in the part of the world that we do it, and do it really, really, really well, and just get back to honestly, what we are and kind of what pumps through our blood, and that's Walleye 101. All
right, so I just did a web search for Walleye 101, and up comes walleye101.com. That's where you want people to go then, eh?
Yeah, so you're going to start to see some changes. Walleye 101 will take them to the website. We got a really something cool coming in late November. Definitely going to be open to the public in January. We got a really cool new way to communicate and pass on fishing information. So we're really excited about that. And over the next couple of months, you'll see the change of our Facebook page. You'll see the change of our YouTube page. We'll kind of go back to that original Walleye 101 moniker. I'm actually really, really happy about it, because that's who I am. That's what I do is Walleye 101, and really, really happy about that change. So we're excited about it.
Lance, I do get this whole siren song of trying to continue to grow and expand and move into different areas. But from my own experience, I get the concept of pick out what you are really, really good at and concentrate on that, and that is what makes you better. Not growing into other things, but just being the best you can at what you're good at.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely the point of going back to Walleye 101 is, we don't teach others. Again, we had the idea of bringing other people on, and we just don't teach. I fish for walleye. That's what I do. That's kind of where I'm at, and that's what I do. And I teach walleye fishing around the Great Lakes. That's where I do it, and we just want to get back to just being really, 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 really good at focusing on Detroit River, the Saginaw Bay, Lake Erie, the St. Clair River, and Lake St. Clair, some of the inland lakes in Michigan, maybe a little bit of border states, and just concentrating on giving good, solid fishing information that anybody can use regardless of their experience level, and doing it in a way that is educational, easy to watch, and honestly fun. So really looking forward to getting back to my roots and kind of how this whole thing started.
Excellent. I saw a post from you the other day. You were gonna do something about fishing walleye in reservoirs, and I immediately thought of the big Western impoundments. I was confused what you were talking about. But you were actually talking about Michigan impoundments, Michigan reservoirs, right?
It's so funny. We focus so much on the Great Lakes, and that's kind of where we fish, but how many people have 15, 16, 17, 18-foot boats? Maybe they want to take a quick 2 or 3 hour quick little trip after work. Maybe they don't have a buddy to go fishing with, so they don't want to go on the Great Lakes without, having somebody there for safety. We have so many high-quality reservoirs in the state of Michigan that have walleyes in them. Some planted, some have natural reproduction. But these reservoirs, because they are designed for flood control and or water production, they are really close to metro areas. I can just about guarantee you, anybody listening to this is within a half-hour drive of a reservoir that has probably a really good walleye population in it. So we're going to step back and spend the first 4 months of January. Our main focus on our members' seminars are going to be reservoirs, how to find a reservoir, how to pick a reservoir, why reservoirs are different than lakes, spring, summer, fall patterns in reservoirs, some techniques that work really good in reservoir fishing. We're going to focus on giving people an opportunity to get out and go fishing. Don't have to worry about the weather. Don't have to drive a long way. Don't have to have a whole bunch of equipment and tackle. They can do it a couple hours after work, get on some of these reservoirs, and really get a chance to go fishing more. So we're going to really focus on helping them dial in on how to take advantage of these great fisheries that we have that really get underfished.
I love this concept because I am guilty of this too, because I'm a Saginaw Bay guy. I'm a big water guy. That's what I think of. That's what I talk about. That's what I promote. That's what I post. But yeah, you think about all these inland waters that are so easy to get to, so fishable. But here's the thing I'm not clear on. What is the difference between a reservoir and a lake?
So basically the difference is, the main difference is obviously a reservoir has a river running through it. And we have to be careful about how we look at fish location, because there is a consistent current that usually runs the same direction. We also have some differences in the way reservoirs lay out. If you look at an overhead view of a reservoir versus a lake, lakes have a tendency to be wider and rounder. Reservoirs have a tendency to be narrow and skinnier, which is good because it creates some places that we can go and we can hide out of wind in a reservoir that we can't on a lake. Reservoirs have lots of different structure, very little weed growth. So we have to understand how bottom composition is much more important in a reservoir than it sometimes is in a lake, because we have other cover in lakes. We usually have wood cover in a reservoir. We usually have soft bottom in a reservoir. It's very hard to find a lot of hard bottom in a reservoir. So when you do, it becomes a big deal. So there's lots of different things that folks have to kind of change their mind about fishing a reservoir versus fishing a lake. And that's why we tried to put together one seminar to run about 45 minutes to an hour on reservoir fishing, and I got done with about 1/3 of the information. I'm like, yeah, this is a whole lot bigger can of worms than I thought. So to really cover this, we're going to do it in detail over the first quarter of 2025. Really excited about it because there's so much that people don't know about reservoirs, and it is different. There's a lot of things you can bring from your lake fishing and or your Great Lake fishing into reservoirs. There's things you can bring from your river fishing knowledge into reservoirs, but you have to make sure that you use the right mix of that to understand how to communicate what kind of bait fish options. The bait fish options are really important in reservoir because they're different than a lake. So we have to understand where those bait fish spawn, where they live, how they're affected by warm water and low oxygen. There's lots to that. So we're going to really dig into reservoirs and really get people dialed in on how they can take advantage of these really cool bodies of water.
I'm still hung up on this whole reservoir thing. I'm trying to think. I know of Holloway Reservoir. That's the only one I think I actually know about.
Well, let's stop for a minute. So up here, right around the corner from my house, Holloway Reservoir, Mott Lake, Belleville Lake, Ford Lake. Kent Lake is actually a reservoir where they actually move the water up and down. In Kent Lake, there's a bunch of reservoirs on the west side of the state that nobody fishes. There's a couple big reservoirs close to Jackson that really go
Gotcha.
under.
So some of them are known as lakes. That's what we got. That's what I have to come to grips with. It might be called a lake, but it might actually be a reservoir. Gotcha. Listen, Lance, we got to take a break. We're talking to Lance Valentine of Walleye 101, walleye101.com. Forget that whole teaching fishing thing. More when we come back with Lance. It's always fun to talk with Lance, especially this time of year when the walleye are so big. Lance Valentine of Walleye 101, walleye101.com coming up. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee, WMLQ 97.7 FM. So you go just down the coastline to Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. And let's jump over to the others. No, let's go north. Let's go north to Manistee, WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's our nature and your nurture. Our nurture and your nature. There we go. I was talking to Paul Reeder the other day from Reader Landscaping, and he said, Mike, I love what you're saying about us. I appreciate that. He said, but one thing you say is wrong. I'm like, oh, okay, well, what is it? He says, when you talk about every hour that the Reader guys spend at your house is another hour that you can spend on the water or in the woods. I said, well, it is. He said, no. He said, think of it this way. If it's going to take you an hour to do something with your one person and your home equipment, our crews could come in and do it in a fraction of the time. He said, so actually think about it this way. For every hour that a Reader crew spends at your house, it's probably 2 hours or 4 hours that you've just freed up that you could spend in the outdoors. I'm like, hey, Paul, I can't argue with that. So I talked with the folks at Reader the other day. They're going to come out and they're going to wrap up the sprinkler system. They're going to blow out the sprinkler system. I said, please, let's wait and do it at the very last minute because we have a water feature in the patio that Reader put in, and we enjoy watching that, and we don't want to shut that down until we have to. So, okay, so it's the last minute. They've been out. They've aerated the lawn this fall. I've been taking care of the mowing, but they did some trimming. I mean, full service shop for all things lawn and property. Folks at Reader can take care of you. And I hate to even think this far down the road, but the season that's coming up that starts with a W that ends with winter or inter. If we get snow this year and you decide you don't want to shovel it or plow it, let the folks from Reader do that as well. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and then jump on over to walleye101.com. If you are in the fishing world, if you like to fish walleye and you hear Walleye 101, you know exactly who we're talking about. We're talking to Sir Lancelot, Lance Valentine, the website walleye101.com. Lance, let's talk a little bit more about these reservoirs. Then we got to make sure we talk about your big event coming up. I know that fall fishing can be great. It can produce bigger fish on the big water. Is that also the case on these inland lakes and reservoirs?
It absolutely is. You've got to be careful, though. So this is one of the things we talk about when we're going to cover reservoirs in detail is you have to be careful that some reservoirs get drawn down in the wintertime. So what happens is they pull the water out because those reservoirs are designed as flood control. So they pull them out so they can hold extra water in the springtime. And what happens in that situation is walleyes have a tendency to migrate to the upper part of the reservoir where the river comes in, where the water level is going to be a little bit more stable. If you don't get that, these reservoirs hold a lot of fall water. Now, most reservoirs that don't draw down are deeper reservoirs, or what we call flatland reservoirs. So the river channel down by the dam is 25, 30, maybe 35 feet deep. Those reservoirs almost always have shad in them. Shad have very distinct characteristics and very distinct needs as the water temperature starts to drop. So we start to see a migration of the shad from the open water area by the dam towards what we call coves in a reservoir. Unlike a bay, which is just a small indentation in the shoreline, coves kind of go way back and usually have a feeder creek. So we see this migration. So fall fishing can be absolutely fantastic in reservoirs if you understand what the bait is doing, why it needs to move, where it's going to go, how it's going to act, how it's going to be affected physiologically, and how it's going to kind of go into a stupor and how walleyes react to that. So big walleye in the fall, doesn't matter if you're fishing reservoirs, fishing inland lakes, or fishing the Great Lakes. Traditionally, fall time is the best time to catch the largest amount of the biggest fish in a body of water. That's just how it works. These fish are on the move. They're feeding. They're constantly feeding to get fat, to get through winter and spring. So fall can be great. I don't care if you're fishing a 100-acre inland lake or a 3,000-acre reservoir, or you're fishing the Great Lakes. Fall is the absolute best time, your chance to catch a trophy, and your best chance to catch multiple big fish over the course of a day, a week, or a month or so.
Your comments do make me think, though, about discussions we've had in the past, and this deals primarily with Lake Erie and the Detroit River. In the springtime, people complaining about taking those big spawn-filled female walleye, and biologists say, look, it's okay. It's not going to hurt that resource. If we take this same conversation to a smaller inland lake or reservoir, I would think we have to have that as a concern in the back of our mind, though.
Yeah, we really have to be careful what we do in these smaller bodies of water. And look, I have a ton of respect for the DNR and kind of what they do. They do a great job of managing our fishery, but I think they really miss on managing inland lakes and reservoirs the same way they manage the Great Lakes. We just don't have enough people. I would like to see, like Ohio has, I would like to see a completely different fishery division that just focused on inland lakes and one that just focused on the Great Lakes, because those are two different things that need the same amount of attention, just different attention. You can't go to Holloway Reservoir when the fishing is good in the fall or the fishing is good in the spring. You can't go 6, 7, 8, 10 days in a row, you and a buddy, and everybody take 5 fish out every day. You can't do it, because that is a self-sustaining population. That's a 3,000-acre body of water that has less than 1.5 legal walleyes per acre. There's less than 3,000 legal walleyes in Holloway Reservoir. So you can see that it doesn't take very long to decimate that population and really pull back on the amount of fish that can spawn. So we have to be careful. Go to these smaller bodies of water, even though the limit is 5, especially in the fall. Throw back those females, maybe keep a few males, maybe 2 or 3. Even if your limit is 5, only keep 2 or 3 of those fish so that fishery continues to take care of itself. Now, in waters that are stocked, completely 100% sustained by stocking, I'm thinking of places like Lake Neptune out on the pier, that's 100% stock. You know what, take the fish out because they're going to put more in. They put more in every year, and they have a tendency to grow. But some of these smaller bodies of water, Holloway Reservoir being a great example, are now 100% natural reproduction, natural recruitment, as is Belleville Lake down by Ann Arbor. We have to really be careful with that population. Again, I would like to see them managed a little bit different, but us as anglers have a responsibility to manage these resources ourselves, even though the rules say that we can take more fish than we really should.
Tell me about your big event coming up on Lake Erie. An annual event, right?
Yeah, this is actually our 20th year that we've done it, and we've I think this is actually our 72nd trip that we've done over the course of the 20 years. It's called a Fishing Education Weekend, and basically what it is, it's 4 days of fishing, seminars, learning on and off the water, sharing information with all the anglers on the water so everybody knows what's going on, so we can kind of help each other catch fish and make plans. We call it Fishing Education Weekend because the focus is on education. We do we have breakfast together as a group. We do a morning fishing seminar. Hey, here's where you should go. Here's what you should do. Then we do a couple real quick little seminars on things you should look for or try to learn to practice that day. We go on the water. We're in communication with everybody on the water. We come back. We have a little seminar in the afternoon. We have dinner together. Then we have a major seminar at night that kind of puts together the whole picture of what we did that day, and then we move on to the next day. So we do 4 days of that, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's in Huron, Ohio, on the shores of Lake Erie, one of the best places to go for fall walleye fishing. We get 60 to 65 anglers. I have 6 or 7 staff members there, so it's a pretty big event. Sign up is still available, walleye101.com, right on the homepage there. Just click on the Fishing Education Weekend and get all the details. Everything is provided. We take care of all the lodging, all your food, all your meals, all the seminars, all the workshops. We got a place to park your boats and charge them at night. Everything is taken care of other than your fishing expenses. If you don't have a boat, come on down. We'll get you on a boat with somebody who has some space. If you have a boat but nobody to bring, come on down with your boat. We'll find somebody to put in a seat for you. So it's just a great way to meet some new fishing buddies and have 4 days of concentrated fishing and fishing education. You get to learn it, go on the water, try it, come back, ask some questions, and learn it better. So you're going to definitely leave there a better angler. Leave with a bunch of fish fillets and have a chance at the fish of a lifetime because it is the right place at the right time of year.
When is this again, Lance?
It is November 7th through 10th this year. We always do it the weekend of the first full week in November. So November 7th through 10th this weekend or this year. That time of year, you don't know what Mother Nature is going to throw at you. In those 4 days, can you basically count on at least one blow day, probably?
Yeah. So what we do is we have a full day of seminars planned. So if we get a situation where we cannot fish, we'll do breakfast. We'll do our morning fishing meeting. We'll take a little break, and we will have a full day of seminars planned. So
even if we don't get on the water, you're going to leave there a better angler. We've got, like I said, I've got 6 or 7 staff members. Myself, we have a whole day of seminars planned just in case we do get a blow day. And if we know we're going to get a blow day, we actually, adjust our plans. Personally, for me, I really like it. I would prefer that Friday is a fishing day, Saturday is a blow day, and then Sunday is a fishing day, because the guys go out Friday, they try some things, they got some questions, then we can take care of all of that on Saturday with nobody worried about going fishing. Then they can learn all that and go back out Sunday, put it to practice, and figure out what they learned. That would be my preferred weather for the weekend. Unfortunately, I can't control that, but we definitely don't cut you free. If we can't go fishing, we make sure that you have a full day of education, and you're definitely going to leave there a much, much, much better angler.
Even Lance Valentine can't control the weather yet?
Wish I could, man.
Working on it, right? Working on it.
I'm working on it.
Hey, so what's the biggest fish your guys have caught during this event over the years?
Yeah, so the biggest fish at our event was 13.14 pounds. One of the guys who was at our event came back to Huron the week after and caught a fish over 15. So, wow. Yeah, I don't think we've ever had a fall down there where we haven't had a fish over 10 pounds. One year, 2006 was our best year ever. I think we had 20 fish over 11 pounds that year.
That's crazy.
And we're getting that way again. The population is getting better. The Lake Erie population is on an uptick with some bigger fish. Some of these fish are in the system now are 12, 14, 15 years old, left over from that huge year class in 11, 12, and 13. Those fish now are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. They're now in that 30, 31-inch range. There's a lot of 9, 10, 11, 12-pounders swimming around in Lake Erie. And Huron in the fall is one of the best places to chase them because of the topography of the area and how the fish are sliding from the east part of Lake Erie to the west. And Huron is a major part of that migration route. So we are going to intercept a lot of those big fish coming back to the Western Basin.
Oh, yeah. I know you didn't choose that location by accident. Hey, I got to take a break. You want to stick around for the coveted third?
Always, my friend. Always.
Oh, you just plan on it at this point. Lance Valentine of Walleye 101, walleye101.com. When we come back, continue our conversation, including Lance's thoughts on this whole concept of forward-facing sonar. Do we as trollers, should we add that to our arsenal? I'm very interested to see what Lance has to say. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Taos on WIOS, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. You can hear us in Sandusky, WMIC, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. In fact, I've been working out of the studio, this building, for almost the past 20 years now. Here with Jonathan Dent. John, appreciate your help. Doing a great job as always. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Truck Trolley. You may have heard the ads for Truck Trolley here in the show. It's a really interesting product, and honestly, it's one of those things that I use every day for different purposes. It's a removable tray that sits in the back of my Garber Chevy in the bed, and it's on rollers. It's held in with straps, so you can take it out whenever you want to. But it's on rollers, and it's low profile, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. You can grab this tray and pull it out so you can have access to the stuff that's at the front of your bed. I used to have this thing called my son called it an old man hook. And it was a broomstick with a hook on the end that I would reach way up into the front and grab things in the front of the bed. Not anymore. I take this truck trolley, I fill it up with it might be hunting gear, it might be fishing gear, it might be a deer, it might be a bear, it might be golf equipment, whatever. And I can take advantage of the full storage of my truck, and I can have access to it. I mean, it's really very slick. And if you decide you need to haul a load of dirt or gravel or sand or something, you just take the thing out, put it back in a few minutes, you're good to rock. Ready to rock. Check them out online at trucktrolley.com. That's trucktrolley.com. Also, while you're online, please go to walleye101.com. Walleye101.com, the website of Sir Lancelot Lance Valentine. Lance, I loved your interest in fishing these inland waters. I think that opens up the process and the whole concept to a lot more people. In a trolling situation, is forward-facing sonar a real thing, or is that for the guys pitching jigs and live bait?
Look, anytime you can see what the fish are doing, learn from watching sonar, change their presentations as fish react, that's a good thing, right? It is a little tougher to use forward-facing sonar when you're trolling because you are moving. Usually, traditionally, forward-facing sonar works best because it is such a narrow beam. When you're concentrated on an area and that beam really isn't moving, because every time that beam moves, it has to redraw the picture, and you kind of lose some of the positive benefits to it. But it is really cool, right? Especially if you use the down view, maybe on the side of your boat. Maybe you're running like our friend Doug Ward does, right? He runs bottom bouncers right off the corner of his boat, or maybe you're running jet divers or big offshore tadpoles like I do on the corner. You can see those on the forward-facing sonar in down mode, and it's really cool to watch the fish come up. They'll come up and react, and they'll go back down, or they'll come up and they'll bite. So you can actually physically watch. You got a presentation down there, and you can watch fish come up, and they'll swim with it, and they'll follow it, and then they'll just disappear. So you know that fish are being attracted to your bait. You're just not triggering that bite. So you can kind of change some things, maybe change some speed, some colors. So it is kind of neat. The problem with forward-facing sonar when you're trolling, again, is it constantly redraws. But we have learned some really cool things. I have a blog on our website of 4 things we've learned from forward-facing sonar. And 2 of those apply directly to trolling. Number 1 is fish will follow a bait for so much longer than we thought. I've physically watched fish on a down rod literally follow my lure for 15 minutes. Same fish. Come up to there and just kind of swim along with the bait. You change speed, you stop, you go faster, and they'll just kind of fall out, and they'll just come back up again. They follow lures forever. So I would tell folks, keep changing your speed, keep turning, do some things that kind of make your lure look weird to get a bite. The other thing I think I would be remiss if I don't cover here, and we're going to do a big seminar on it in the second quarter of next year at Walleye 101. When you see fish on your sonar, we've always taught people, hey, you see fish on your sonar, maybe they're 20 feet deep. Put your baits down there 14, 15, 16 feet. And we've always, even way back in the 90s when we started trolling open water, always said, hey, if you got an extra bait, put it up high in the water column, it might catch an extra fish. What we're finding out with forward-facing sonar, especially in scout motors, we're looking forward at the fish before we get there, is the fish that you see at 20 feet on your transducer behind the boat, they're actually 9, 10, 11, 12 feet deep. They just spook from the boat. They go off to the side and they drop down. So when you see them at 20 and you put your baits down there to attack a fish at 20, you're below the fish because those fish are actually up higher in the water column. They're getting spooked by the boat. They're moving out and moving down, and you see them. You get fooled by what you see on your regular transducer because those fish aren't traditionally down there. They're not down there all the time. They're actually higher. They're just reacting to the boat going by. So we're getting fooled by what we're seeing on our transducer on the back of the boat because those fish aren't always that deep. So that was kind of a eye opener to say, okay, especially on the Angler Quest where I've got all those extra rods, I may run half my spread higher than I think I need to be just because now I know by using forward facing in that scout mode, I know that those fish are high.
So once again,
the ones I'm seeing on my transducer are fooling me.
So once again, my dad was right. He always said, run a high line because you don't know what's up there. Lance, listen, always a pleasure. I'm out of time. I will look forward to seeing how your event goes down on Lake Erie, and I'll be anxiously following your adventures online. Lance Valentine of Walleye 101, walleye101.com. Lance, one of the good guys. We'll talk with another one of the good guys coming up after the break. Wild Game Chef Dixie Dave Minar. And Dave has a little surprise for us. I've seen the picture. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. I appreciate you taking time out from your busy day to listen to me. Whether it's the broadcast version of the show or the podcast version, it does certainly mean a lot to me. There's a lot of different things you could be doing right now, watching content you could be consuming. So the fact that you hear my voice means so very much to me. It also means a lot to me to have my good friend, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, help us wrap up each week's show, usually with a recipe. But this week, Dave's got a little story, and I'm anxious to hear what that story is. David, my friend, welcome back. How are you?
Good.
Busy, I know, right?
Pardon me?
You're busy, I know. Busy.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've got that meal coming up for Delta College for the 21st. Just call the Delta College there, October 21st, and get tickets for it. There's still some available.
But in the meantime, you've been able to sneak out in the woods.
Yep. Finally started getting out there. Went out a couple of nights, and then yesterday, which would have been Tuesday, I got an alfalfa field planted, and the deer seemed to really, really enjoy that. And so I had a couple of fawns come in, then a couple of does, and then another great big doe. I thought about harvesting her, and then the buck that I shot was the biggest buck I've ever killed in the wild. I've been on hunting preserves, when we needed mounts for the restaurant, but this one is a dandy.
What is it? Is it big 10 point or what is it?
9. It's 9. A 9.
But the brow tines on this thing are crazy.
I know it. It's really a unusual looking deer. How wide it is and how tall too. I'm happy. It's big. We could hardly drag it out of the woods. It took 3 of us to get it over to where we could get to it with a tractor to put it in the bucket.
It's a beautiful buck day, and if you don't mind, I will share the pictures on the Facebook page so people can see it.
Okay, that's fine by me. Yep.
So tell me, this was a morning hunt, you said?
No, evening about 45 minutes before dark. All the deer just keep coming to that my field there, and when he came up, it was about a 40-yard shot, just a chip shot, and then I hit just a little bit low, and I only took out one lung after I gutted it out, and that's why it went probably a good 100 yards with one drop of blood about every, 15 or 20 feet. Luckily it stayed on a deer trail, and then I had a part of a trail mowed that I was going to use to get around in the property, and I turned on that for easy going and walked another 40 or 50 yards, maybe 40 yards tops. And then as I was looking at it, getting down on my hands and knees looking for more blood, I heard something crash off into the brush. And so I followed the deer trail farther down, and there he laid.
Were you getting nervous, though, at one point?
Yeah, because there was hardly no blood, but I only took out one lung after I cleaned it, and that's probably why he went so long, because I hit a little bit low, not much, but a little bit.
Dave, this is a beautiful buck, and they're in Aranac County where you are. I don't think of that as a big buck area. Did you know this guy was around?
Nope. We've got pictures on the trail cams of other 6s and 8s, and we have a rule, everybody between my nephews, their property and our property, we have a rule of 6 points or better. And last year we only got a doe between myself and the wife, and everything got to be bigger. This let them go and grow definitely works. This is the 3rd year that we didn't shoot any smaller bucks, just for the freezer.
Well, this guy was worth waiting for.
I'm telling you what, you're absolutely right.
No,
it was a great hunt. My heart was pounding when I walked out of the brush into the field.
Oh, no, he's absolutely beautiful. In a heartbeat, any hunter would take that buck. So then, obviously, you're going to cook him up. You're going to make the most of him. What are you looking forward to most? What dish? I'm not looking for a recipe, but just what are you looking forward to out of this buck?
Terry makes great goulash, for in camp, and I really like steaks. I like it with capers. We have a caper recipe that is just killer that I've made for us a lot of times, and we make a lot of stew too.
Can't go wrong with Stu. David, he's a beautiful buck. I will be happy to post his picture. Congrats, my friend. You should be very proud, very happy, and I'm happy for you.
All right, now make sure everybody get their tickets for the Delta College October 21st. Call Delta and get your tickets reserved. There's a few left.
There you go. Good job working that in. David, I'll let you get back to work, and we'll talk again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, wild game chef extraordinaire, and obviously big whitetail buck hunter, wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar. This thing it's a very, very nice buck, and the brow tines on it are just crazy long. If you want to see what it looks like, the picture, as you hear this radio show, will be on my Facebook page. You're going to have to scroll down a little bit because I will have had several posts since then. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Love to hear from you. If you've got pictures, send them to me. Love to see them. Fall fishing, fall hunting, whatever it is, love to see them. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Have a great week. Enjoy the fall, and we'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.